the giver of knowledge and wisdom, who has just found us worthy as a virtue to be used for this particular program. I really appreciate everyone who has made it possible, especially the resource person for your contribution. It's not something that is easy at all, getting you to do this for us. I know what it means in Nigeria to have a very stable network. Right now, I'm about to go into the town, whether the network will be a little bit fair than what I have around me here. So I appreciate every one of us. The main focus here is how we can see that we can fine-tune what we have as culture, because everything is already blowing to the air every now and then. You discover a Yagba man do not feel proud of speaking his own language. We just had a security summit meeting, and what dominated that place was English language, as Yoruba, as Yagba. So we believe that something like this will help us to be able to re-examine ourselves as Yagba people and now come up with formidable ideas to ensure that, yes, our language now play prominent center listing in whatsoever we are doing. It's not just language alone. There are so many things that we inherited from our forefathers that are no longer there, that we've thrown to the wind. And we feel this is something like this will help us to bring them on board. At the end of it all, I want to believe that a forum like this will begin to bring us together in unity, promote awareness, and let me not just deceive us. The hardest thing that has ever happened to Yagba was this Nupe War. Nupe War hit us below the belt just because we were unable to come together as a people. And that was why we got it wrong. So I want to believe that this is an avenue for us to actually realize how our forefathers got it wrong and what we can do better so that we can now stand in unity, we can now stand in oneness, we can now stand just together and fight a common purpose. Not by word this time around, but yes, there are so many things that we can come together and achieve together as Yagba people. Thank you once again. I welcome every one of us, and I believe that at the end of the day, we have cause to glorify God Almighty. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, the organizer of this noble program and this special summit. May I appreciate the privilege of being brought up to meet with great minds from Yagba and at this program organized by Mokutu citizens or concerned citizens. I must commend the organizer having this kind of thought for this program. It's something that will go memory lane to affect not only Yagba people, but even the nation as a whole when we talk about preserving our culture. And so I want to thank you very much for that opportunity. Within the limited time I have, I shall be talking about the preservation of culture as a means to protect and promote the unity, value, and identity of Yagba people. This topic is a very timely and topical issue, which I will try to address within the limited time before me under the following headings. I will be looking at what is culture. I will look at different types of culture that exist or that we have or components of culture. We'll be looking at Yagba in perspectives since we want to contextualize this topic to our area or to that region. Then we'll look at preservation of culture, the cultural heritage, and then look at the importance of preserving our heritage. Then what threats does modernization present to our cultural heritage? We look at the challenges, and then we end with the way forward. By the way, what is culture? Culture is the idea, customs, and social behavior of particular people or society. A society is known by its culture, by its customs, and by its social behavior. And that's why another school of thought defines culture as the acquired knowledge people use in interpreting experience and generate behavior. When we talk about acquired knowledge, directly or indirectly, as people come up, there are unconscious experiences, unconscious things that build up in our minds that relatively guide our behavior. And that's why it is seen as as a pattern of human activity and the symbolic structure that give importance, give significance to our activities. Culture is the beliefs or behaviors or objects or the shared characteristics by a group of people. As we know, in my place from Owo, in Ondo State, there are things that bring us together, make us different from people from Akure or people from Ibadan or Oyo or people from Yagba. So as it is, culture is as old as the world. When we talk about types of culture, we want to look at the aspect of real culture or ideal culture. And when we talk about real culture, we're talking about, when we talk about real culture, we are talking about the real culture. Real culture can be observed in our social life, not minding, irrespective of the location. Culture is as old as the world. And that's why when we talk about cultural preservation, we have to first of all look at what types of culture exist. We have the real culture, we have the ideal culture. The ideal culture, which is presented as the way of precedent to the people, what the activities, things that are peculiar to the environment. Then culture can be viewed in another way, two different dimensions. We're talking about material culture or non-material culture. When we talk about material culture, of course, things visible that we can see in our environment, the building, artifacts, visible things in the environment. Then the non-material culture that has to do with our emotion, traditions, day-to-day activities. Therefore, looking at the elements, what are the elements that make up culture? We have 7 different parts of elements that make culture. We have the social organization, we have customs, we have religion, we have language, we have the government, we have the economy and arts. These elements put together make up the culture of a particular environment, of a particular town or city or the environment. So we cannot, when we talk about culture, we cannot put away the customs, which has to do with whether the dressing, the type of food they eat, the religion. And sometimes when we look at the geopolitical zone in Nigeria, talk about the north, talk about the south, talk about the west, you will see some predominance of religion when we talk about some environment. Indirectly, culture, religion, they are interrelated. The language, government, talking about the leadership. What makes America different from Nigeria is types of leadership that they are having. The economy, the arts. So all these elements put together characterize the culture we're talking about. And importantly, every society or ethnic group is unique in any of the following: the language, the festival, rituals and ceremony, holidays, the pastimes, food and architecture. In my town location, we have in Owo, we have a tradition of the Igogo festival. It was done not quite long in the year. It's so revered, it's so respected. The activities in the town, you will see the atmosphere that, oh, there is the tradition, there is the festival. Ditto to Yagba people, the environment, there will be some characterized festival that as children grow up, they know that, oh, at all time and season in our town, there's usually an annual festival or sometimes holidays, like the season of Christmas we are in now. as children grow up, even the atmosphere, the weather characterizing the holiday, Christmas, Harmattan, and all the like, even the food, the what individuals enjoy, then the architectural component of even the environment too, indirectly form part of the culture of a given location, of a given town. So all these relatively create the norms of such society. And what are norms? Norms are informal, unwritten rules that govern social behaviors. So coming to the Yagba community of society, let me just give a brief about Yagba community. Yagba society is a sub-Yoruba ethnic group in Kogi State. Of course, I can't describe Yagba than those of you that are from that environment. It has boundaries with the Nupe in the north, the Ekiti in the south, and the Jumu and the Bunu. Then, with approximate land area of 3,454 square kilometers, and they speak a dialect called Okun. The term Yagba is coming from the word Yagba, from what we read from history, that one of the sojourners, the leader of that place, who said at that point that, oh, the challenge he had because of the acquisition and of the land which was taken from him was because of lack of elderly person that allowed the environment. Of course, I'm happy that Okun, from those language, they are much related to Yoruba, and that's why from history we have different aspects of in fact of the naming of town, naming of individuals. You will see Yoruba intonation in that language, and I have no doubt now that if at the moment the circumstance that gave birth to the name of that town would not be again, there won't be any Yagba at the moment, as I'm aware that we have professors, we have distinguished businessmen, distinguished scholars, distinguished politicians from your environment. So I have no doubt that the town is formidable. But we need, at this time, as we talked about cultural preservation, Yagba people have to look at what culture are we endowed with, and in what area can we further strengthen our culture and preserve it for the unity of the environment and for development. Okun people are Yoruba descendants, like I said, in Kogi State, and it comprises of a multi-ethnic group, and up to 20% of Kogi State population, smaller than the other two major completely different tribes, the Igala and the Ibira. So we have and that's why from that environment, we have the East, Yagba West, or as the case may be. And I want to commend the organizer of this program, putting this together at this time for our community, our environment to get the best out of it is something very commendable. And I want to say that this seminar should not just go just ordinary like that without having the expected desire or this expected product that is for development of the environment. What is cultural preservation? This, having established the fact of what is peculiar about our town, about our place, Yagba people, what culture, what are we to do about preserving our culture? So let me quickly just say that cultural preservation is effort put forth by parents, educators, or government from diverse cultures to protect their heritage from disappearing because of lack of use, exclusion, or devaluation of the broader society. Cultural preservation must be a conscious effort. As a matter of fact, another school of thought looks at it that it must involve using deliberate and well-harnessed, well-designed methodologies to maintain the cultural heritage, because so that the past will not go into extinction without link with the present and the future generation. Unfortunately, our society now is some of the culture, some of the things that are peculiar with us, they are going into extinction because of modernization. Of course, I'm going to address that aspect of modernization when we get there. So talking about cultural heritage, it is the legacy of physical artifacts and intangible attributes of a group or society that are inherited from past generations, maintained by the present, and bestowed for the benefit of future generations. I repeat, cultural heritage must be those legacy that, whether physical, whether tangible or intangible, that are inherited from past generations and maintained by the present and bestowed for the benefit of future generations. May I, at this point, ask this question? What are those things we inherited from our past generation? Are we maintaining them in our society, in our culture? Are we sure we bestow it for the future generation? In our very own eyes, some of our distinguished culture, they are going into extinction. We don't believe in them again. We don't have value. We don't have respect for them. And so there is nothing to transfer to the future generation. We must sound a note of caution to us that we should look at, Yagba people should look at what cultural heritage is peculiar with them. What cultural heritage do they have to preserve for the environment, for them to move forward, to harness and for development of the environment? Cultural heritage includes a tangible culture such as building, monumental place, landscape, books, works of art, and artifacts. In fact, there are monumental buildings that even when development is coming, that one way or the other should still be maintained for younger generation. Even in the Bible, there are landmarks where the scripture we infer that the leader, they put stone there for their generations to come to know. I was moving along the street 2 days ago with my children, and I remember one historic place where we used to have lessons when I was in secondary school. And I was telling them, unfortunately, the story building had been pulled down. They have a bungalow there. And I was just imagining, I was telling my children, they kept on asking questions. Daddy, why this? Daddy, why that? And why that? Of course, they can only imagine what was there before is no longer there. And so that kind of experience is happening virtually everywhere. Some monumental buildings are being demolished because we feel that, oh, they are not relevant, or maybe where they are, the strategic position they occupy, they no longer fit the community or the society. So cultural heritage also includes intangible culture, traditions, or living expression that are inherited from our ancestors and passed on to our descendants, such as rural traditions, art, social practices, ritual, festive events, knowledge, and practices. And I want to say as much as possible that language, which is part of our cultural heritage, let me ask the question, how many of us can boast that our children can speak our local language? Yagba, how many of us can boast, oh, my children can speak this? Of course, the English language are spoken at gulped and swallowed. Our traditional language is, I will try and share on the WhatsApp. Recently, I watched a video clip on the social media on WhatsApp, and I felt, oh, this man has a point to say that now these are traditions. Many of our children, they can no longer speak. They can no longer speak our language. Is something we should address. So what is the importance of preserving our heritage? The Yagba people, distinguished Mokutu concerned citizen, may I stress the importance of preserving heritage, our heritage. The importance of preserving heritage, tradition, and race cultural heritage, or in our history of any nation or any community, has a very high value and it's unique. It is an identity, and we've got to maintain our identity because of the uniqueness each environment has. Cultural heritage affirms our identity as a people. So the cultural heritage of Yagba people affirms your identity as Yagba. Of course, you have more story for what makes up that community, Isonlu, all the environment, the kings, and it is the cultural heritage that distinguishes the identity of that environment. If you talk about my town, we have different things that characterize us and make us unique own case. So culture and its heritage reflect and shape values. Culture and heritage reflect and shape values, the beliefs and aspirations of a group's national identity. So the importance of intangible cultural heritage is not just the cultural manifestation of the structure of what we have, but rather the wealth of knowledge and skill that is transmitted through it from one generation to another. I want to say at this junction, while still stressing on the importance of preserving our cultural heritage, I want to say that the role of culture as a place of employment and source of income is growing all over the world. In fact, some cultures that so much they are, and that's why when we talk about tourism, we have in every state, we have the commissioner for this or for tourism and whatever. If we give premium to our culture, the culture has a way of adding value to our environment. At the same time, culture gives something money cannot buy. If the correct or appropriate measure is taken to adopt and preserve our culture, it will favor social cohesion and involvement of the population. The fundamental flaw in allowing local languages and culture to disappear is alarming and, of course, very disturbing. Cultural preservation is vital in maintaining our human identity. And so we cannot overemphasize the importance of preserving cultural heritage. Recently, from study in 2018, talking about languages, number of languages, we have over 7,099 languages as of 2018. And in fact, as of that year, it appears that every year, approximately every five languages goes into extinction. Because when it's not properly transmitted, when our children, as they travel abroad or leave the local environment, they involve, if they are not speaking Yoruba or they speak English. And gradually, even if with those who speak it, they're already speaking amalgamated language. So if some of our children that are still privileged, to speak Yagba, you may discover that they are already mutilating even the pronunciation in things of, as I am aware, the name of even this organization, that what we have, Makutu. These are sometimes the distortion in these languages, like in my town, that is written as Owo. Recently at the School of Thought, I was invited as a guest speaker at the Millennium Celebration. So in 2019, I tell you that it was reiterated that this Owo that we are writing, we are only writing in Yoruba. It should be Ogo, O-G-H-O, not O-W. The same thing virtually, because our modern language, our own traditional language is already giving way for maybe a broader language or global language to take over. So we have to be very, very careful. Developed nations are considered modern, and that's why I want to emphasize on the threat modernization has to our cultural heritage. Developed nations, we see them, of course, they are considered modern, but what they often fail to see is that modernization comes at a cost. Namely, the loss of smaller languages, the rituals, the cultural preservation. So as the modern world reaches into developing and underdeveloped world, it becomes apparent to younger members of the developing world that, of course, they already giving their own traditional language or giving it up for the broader language. So being able to adopt or adapt to the modern world is seen as beneficial because of the potent benefits of better life, that, we are in the modern world, which involves learning English language, which the global generally accepted or language, which all of us focus, English. But as we take that in favor of our native language, the native language, our native language is gradually going into extinction. You may need to do a survey after this talk and find out how many of our elites can their children speak the dialect. How many of the elites do they introduce or allow, maybe festive period, do they bring their children to the community, maybe for annual festival or even the general New Year celebration, Christmas? How many? So what is scary about our native language or spoken languages is that if care is not taken, in 5, 10, 20 years to come, we may be faced with our native language going into extinction if we don't jealously guide it. Unfortunately, the elders who are supposed to be protect the interest of the language, they are not doing their best in that regard. And so we must see, as we are embracing modernization, we must not allow it to affect our cultural heritage. What are the challenges that we have as we talk about this, looking at it in perspective of the unity and development of Yagba people? We are living in a globalized society where traveling to foreign countries is now trending. Of course, people are migrating, going to Canada, going to UK. No problem about that. But moving abroad is becoming more commonplace. And then too, changing locations because of marriages. And then, unfortunately, too, in our society where our grown-up children and even graduates, they don't have a job, satisfying jobs to stay in the local place. So they have to migrate, go to in search for greener pasture. And because of this, as they migrate, gradually, our cultural heritages are living with them. So as people travel and move to different parts of the world, some already get immersed into the culture of the broader culture, and then they leave behind their own culture, and then they are affected. So as we learn from foreign culture, which is good to learn from foreign culture, they are expected to learn from us. We should be a continuous sharing. But sometimes those of us that live our traditional environment, when we go to other places, they will feel inferior about our culture and then give up our culture for others. As we move towards a world where the people and its cultures are becoming loose, and then we are losing the value of having so many diverse voices and experiences available to them, we must just emphasize the need to embrace our culture, the need to fortify, to keep our culture. Those days, our parents, we learn from them when they dress, the local dress. Maybe when you wear traditional wear, you must put on your cap. But today, you can see, because of the traditional dresses, I mean, the modernized dresses, suits, this and that, and you will just see that Yoruba person, when he goes out, when he even dresses, he bastardizes even our dress. You see somebody in native who is going out, no cap. So all this, we must consciously teach them to our children. We must consciously teach them to our children, because it is very important. What we don't teach our children, we are likely to lose it. So what is the way forward? As we look at cultural preservation, as we look at it in terms of uniting our people in that environment, Yagba people, what are we to do? Quickly, I will look at the way forward in two different aspects, or I will look at it as participating in your tradition and recording your culture as a way of moving forward, thereby uniting us so that we can have a common voice to preserve our culture and at the same time move forward and ensure that there is development in our environment. May I quickly give this aside, this by way of illustration and practical experience. Look at any object in your house. Look at anything around you, what you eat, the food you eat, materials you use. You will find evidence of culture, things that are peculiar with you. You will find evidence of culture, but what are you doing as an individual to keep and maintain that culture? So two ways: participating in your tradition and recording your culture. So I'll quickly just go through one. What are we to do? You must consciously share your cultures, art, and technology with your children. With the type of food you eat, the type of material you use, what is peculiar about your people, what dressing is peculiar to your. Consciously share the culture with your people, with your children, and that's why I'll talk about organizing major events. Sometimes, if we must do our best to get our culture stabilized, to get our culture in place, to get our culture moving, we must find a way of organizing events consciously to address these our peculiarities. Then sometimes too, you might need to attend events, attend activities. Recently, I attended some programs, some functions in my environment. Oh, it again reconfirmed again what is unique about. And then this festive period, I try to take my children out as we go out for programs or functions. I reiterate again to them things that are peculiar. So under participating in your tradition, you must consciously share your cultures, art, and technology with your children. Attend or organize major events to address your culture. Then let me say again that what of the recipes, the food, type of food we eat. When I got married, there are food that we eat in our place. Of course, my wife will not cook, and I will ask my mom to teach my wife, because if there are things that I like, if we don't eat it again, because I married from outside my town, gradually, the kind of food, we go into extinction. There are times there are food, traditionally, that the one maybe that my wife has not known how to cook very well, I will ask my mom, let her prepare. When she prepares, I will call my children, this is the name of this food, let us eat it together. So I introduce food that have high nutritional values. So you might need to cook family recipes, or go if you don't have, things, you don't have records of that. When I was going for admission, going to school, together with my twin brother, we asked my mom, please teach us how to cook. And my mom gave us hints. And then, of course, when I got to campus as an undergraduate, throughout my 5 years and 15 days on campus, I didn't step cafeteria to buy food. The only thing I could buy was maybe bread that I cannot manufacture myself, or maybe or snacks. But for food, because I developed that consciously. So even in our tradition, when our children can no longer cook, and maybe what they are just eating is junk, go to Chicken Republic, go to this, go to that, and all they are eating are junk, we need to participate in our tradition, getting our recipes. Then spend time with other members of your community, because some things you don't know, or you have forgotten. Gradually, you get to know about them as you interact with the community. Allow your children to be exposed to the community. Let them interact with other members of their families, with other members, rather than just saying, oh, nuclear families, me and my wife and children. Let them learn. Through that, you are participating in your tradition, and you are passing the cultural heritage to your children and the generation and future generation. Then we must consciously learn about religious tradition. I have said that we cannot divulge religion from our culture. One, with those who are maybe Christian background or Muslim background or whatever, depending on the culture, we must consciously learn about our tradition, read about them, let us tell our children what are the yardstick, what are the reasons behind them. Of course, little children will always ask questions. Let them know. And then, under participating in your tradition, you must learn to speak your ancestral language. Like recently, my wife told my children that except I ask you question, I want you to speak in English. I want you to come and speak at least speak Yoruba language, not everything English. And then, as much as possible, when I speak with my children, I speak my local language to them. So it allows them to hear. And then when they hear the local language, gradually, of course, it helps them to get familiar with the environment. I met with one of my uncles who stayed very long in United States of America. By the time he came back home and we were talking, oh, the way his own our language was so fluent that I said, oh, wow, I like this preservation of heritage. So you should learn to speak our ancestral language as much as possible. If not, it will go into extinction. Ladies and gentlemen, on the other part, I want to talk about recording your culture. As you participate in your tradition, there must be conscious effort to record your culture. And when I mean by that, I will talk about choose a focus. Choosing a focus, we cannot write everything, we cannot capture everything about our culture. However, if you look at it, oh, maybe consciously, what about my culture do I want to pass to the next generation? I will talk about possibly. There might be some culture, maybe inherited, that we might need to address, that maybe are not okay. I'm a twin by name. Assuming the culture of killing twins existed then, I won't be here to address Mokutu concerned citizen today. If myself and my twin brother, who is also a PhD holder, if we are died, we won't be alive to. So, but aspect of culture that since these cultures, we look at them that these are cultures that are good, that are formidable, that we can transfer to, we should choose focus on what area do we want to address with our generation, then whether we want to write about them, we want to preserve them, we should be focused about that. Then we must decide on what medium are we going to do in recording and capturing this culture, whether we want to record them on, write them down, whether we want to have video recording. And I used to take opportunity of getting fact. My dad, who is over 80 now, is so knowledgeable about our tradition and culture. So each time I need information about the culture, I run to him, I pick my pen, take some jottings from him, and sometimes to arrange for a video recorder to capture and pick important information. Because if he dies with those things, some of the information he has, then when apart from research for research purpose, my generation will not have access to information about even his lineage, about his lineage. So we must decide on which medium are we to transmit and preserve this culture. Then we must conduct interviews, because in recording your culture, you might need to go into the town, to the community, to the elders of Yagba, Isonlu, within the Kogi state. Oh, what are their traditions? Those elderly people, pick in pieces, conduct interviews, record them, write them down, so that if we don't, what we don't write down, what we don't keep, the tendency is that we lose them. So then under this recording your culture, I want to emphasize on having your family tree. Recently, one of my children came back and they gave them assignment on family tree. Of course, we have discussed that before, different times in our family. I'll be talking to them about, from my mother's side, from my father's side, even though they have not met, I'll be talking to them about this. It's just to consciously tell them that they don't only exist in this nuclear family. So when they eventually meet some of them, I'll say, oh, this was the person I was talking to you about. So we must consciously create our family tree. Let us identify our family trees, and then find a way of enlisting allow our children to know, if those of us that have maybe monogamous, polygamous families, let our children know how we emerge, and then our placement in the community. So the assignment I will give to us after this seminar, let each of us draw our family tree. Let our children know who is our ancestors, who are our ancestors, what's our placement in the community. It's very important that we do that. So then I want to say that you must use your record to fight for your culture. If in the process of what we have gathered, what are the things that were in place that are no longer in place, that are very important in Yagba, that are no longer there, we can use the record to fight for the culture, to preserve the culture, that, oh, so time in so year, this was in place, this is no longer there. It can rise to the community, and so it is very important. my wife was reading a Yoruba literature to my children. One of the assignments they had in school. And it has to do with about a culture, an environment, a town, how they wanted to choose a king, but they already had a process of choosing the king, but some people had another interest. They wanted to introduce another criteria and other. So they went into court, to the record, to the archive. This is the tradition we have, or if we are going to modify them, it must be to the general acceptance of all. So we must use our records of our cultural heritage to fight and preserve the culture. And lastly on that, I would say that we must be ready to accept change. If there are cultures that we look at it that are inimical to the development of the society, we might need to address that in that round table with the chiefs, with the traditional kings, traditional rulers, to address them and say, okay, so area. Of course, with modernization, many things are evolving. We have many development. We must be ready to accept change, but must not be at the detriment of our cultural heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I want to say that preserving your culture is so important. Your culture is a part of your identity. If you don't preserve your culture, in later generations, they will completely go into extinction. They will fade away. Our beautiful culture with the ancestors and the wonderful things we have in our environment, if we don't care, if we are not careful, we will lose them. So, and if we continue to homogenize culturally and to say, oh, English is the common language and we are all speaking English, no vernacular, this will limit our ability to solve unique problems, and that can be detrimental in some cases. So if we have, as we are encouraging our children to go to school to speak fluent English, let them learn Yagba language, Okun language. Let them learn, let them speak, let them speak fluently. And then when there are problems, societal problems, those who can speak fluently our languages, they will come to rescue. Or if somebody who cannot speak the language of, how can they harness, how can they hear, to even talk about resolving and solving the problem of that environment. So preserving the thousands of cultures and languages around the world, will help us to protect these native viewpoints of not allowing our language to go into extinction, because it will help us to get better. Distinguished Mokuto concerned citizen, while thanking you for the opportunity to speak, I want to say that Yagba, or any society that harmonizes its cultural heritage for development, will be in for continental exploit, as you reflect on few cases that I have been able to raise in this presentation. And I challenge you to take it up for the upliftment of your environment. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak and address distinguished Yagba people. Thank you very much. The floor is now open for question and contribution. Thank you very much.
Honestly, I am blessed.
Thank you.
I am blessed. I thank God. So, but my people, it is now over to you all. Mr. Sami, my father, director. In fact, I'm grateful that I don't know what to say. You find it necessary for you to be in this particular class. God will honor you, sir. Right from your end, please. I would like you people to just make your own view there, so that we can do justice to whatever is on board and all of us can learn. Thank you. Mr. Ludo Isa.
Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. And my sincere appreciation to the erudite professor, Professor Ade Lega.
Thank you, sir.
Pardon me if I don't.
You got the pronunciation. You got it right, sir.
Oh, okay. And thank you very much for the education. We now know the true spelling of Orwa. Instead of the instead of the anglicized version. Unfortunately, some of us seems to have missed the mark of culture. My mother-in-law, blessed memory, just from those days, sorry. When I had my kids in Lagos, he kept saying that Emma so you pass on Emma so you pass on we were being elitist. We want our children to speak good English. And unfortunately today, maybe one or two of them can speak reasonably good Yoruba. My son, I've never heard him speak Yoruba, although he says he understands when they are saying it. But it's very shameful because in those days when I grew up in a village, I'm a village boy. If you are somewhere with your mother, if my mother taps her left leg, then you know you are not supposed to be there. You are supposed to disappear just by tapping her left leg. If they offer you food, my mother will be saying, take it now. Take it now. You're not hungry. You dare not take it. You will say no because you have been warned not to eat outside. But now, when you wink your eye to your son or your daughter, Daddy, what's wrong with your eyes? Why is your eyes like this? Not knowing that you are giving her signs, a cultural signs. I thank you for this lecture. Very beautiful.
Thank you, sir.
Very, and I've started preaching it to my children. Some of them are grand. I'm not a grandfather anyway.
That's lovely, sir.
After teaching them, please don't make the mistake we have made. If you take your child out, there are some things you must be able to communicate that others should not know.
Yes.
But if that is not there and you are doing as so you want to show that your children they can learn any type of language. It doesn't matter whether you start with the or you start with Yagba or anything. When it is time for them to learn English, they will learn it very well. So we should not be deceiving ourselves on that. But I really thank you for the lecture, the brief discourse.
Thank you, sir.
Very thought-provoking and very good. I'm glad we had. I just pray that it is recorded and maybe we can have an opportunity to have it. Listen to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I'm very grateful, engineer, for your contribution. Like you have raised, sir, it's very important that we just consciously just pass our culture to our children. I will find a video clip of my child. One day he was just reading something. What is he reading? He was reading Yoruba Bible. You need to hear the kind of the way he was pronouncing those words. I said, wow, this boy needs to. I remember when we were growing up, we learned our language. We were able to read in Yoruba, read English, read our language. So if our children now cannot read even Yoruba language, everything they can read now is English, it's going to have challenge. In fact, in my university now, as much as we give importance to language, we in Ashiva University, we encourage our students to pick another, apart from this English language, foreign language like French. We make it compulsory for all our students to take French because a little grasp of French will go a long way to help them when they move outside the country. So language is so important. In fact, as part of what researchers have found, that getting a grasp, a good knowledge of language, not only even your own local language alone, is an advantage, is an added advantage for development. So we should consciously transmit our language to our children. Once again, thank you, Engineer Afolabi Oludoyi.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Any other question or contribution?
Okay. Hello, sir.
? Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, this is Stephen Laniru. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
my own is like a comment or almost like a question too, sir.
Yes, sir.
In the area of technical, like engineering, if you look at China as a case study, if you see all their construction, they will always put their language there.
Yes.
And I think there should be conscious effort in our culture to try to write our language. Like me, I read mechanical engineering, and it was difficult for me. I have to learn that English by force. I grew up in the village, so where I work is English all the time. Where I live, the people around me is English language. My children, I try to speak my language, but it was difficult. Some of them are not even interested. So, but I love them too. So this kind of thing, like modernizing us in the way of engineering or technicality, it has taken over our language. So what can we do? Or what can the universities do to help the upcoming ones? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. May I quickly say, from the point of things we buy, imported goods, when you look at them, you see them, they give information about how to use them. They write them in English language. Some, you see them written in French, some in China, in Chinese, and you see them in, so, and to let us know the importance of language, you see even on Google, go online, you will see that you can now check, even if you want to get information on Yoruba language, you want to get information in Igbo language. So the language immersion, language is so important now to technology that as much as possible, we just have to get our language, get our culture into technology. The video clip I promised that I would share with the platform emphasize the way all these are languages that we downplay, and some of the songs we used to sing there, they get it. Why? Let me quickly say this: that why do we see that a white man is interested in knowing our language? Sometimes they need to know our language, they understand our language, so that they can package something for us to come. They can customize it. When it's coming back to us in our language, we will appreciate it better. And we'll be ready to even pay for it because it is customized to us. So I still want to say, sir, that language, we must consciously see, even in the curriculum, to build it in it. Recently, one of our lecturers in Ashivas University, we were discussing on our platform, and she just came up and opened up and said that she was one of the products of OAU. There was a time OAU did a project. They taught the students, their pupils, right from primary, secondary school, on using just traditional language, Yoruba, to teach mathematics, to teach everything except English language. They use Yoruba. You need to see that lecturer. Very brilliant, wonderful, articulate. And why? She was just a product of that experiment. And I look at it that when you teach people with the language, coming home with the language, not just forcing everything on them with English language, and everything. Of course, English language has its advantage. So I told your school of thought that as much as possible, we must see how best we can domesticate this in our language. But sir, we cannot do that until we are there, because those who are producing these things, they are from the Chinese, from India, from America. If they don't understand our language, they cannot produce that. Then those of us that we need to produce that, if our engineers don't take the challenge to say, okay, let them acquire the needed skill, then domestically, they can now integrate, they can now adopt or adapt our language into technology. And it's a challenge to us to, as much as possible, all of us, those in the academia, and to just see that as we learn in this world of modernization, as much as possible, let's see how we can build in our culture, build in our tradition to make sure we get the best for the environment. Thank you, Mr. Stephen Laniru for that contribution, sir.
Welcome,
the
sir.
Chairman, any other? The Chairman?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, sir. I think when we are discussing culture, normally there used to be this conflict between what we call culture and religion. Because of that, I have a pastor beside me who has been listening along since the program started, because I consciously too will be interviewing him to know his own point of view on it. And I was surprised that he agreed with you totally. However, I still want him to let us know, because those days, those of us who were lucky in the class of SU, so-called SU. So those days, our pastors will have so many things in our cultures and all these things, inimical to our faith. So I would like Pastor me to say something concerning that.
Okay, sir. You have the floor, Pastor Femi.
God bless you. You have been listening all along, and we are grateful from bringing out of the well of knowledge. God bless you in Jesus' name.
Amen.
There are areas where we do have a clash with culture, and that is why it seems that the modern day Christians and Muslims don't want to totally accept our culture, and we find ourselves separating from culture. Like in my community now, before installing any king, you have to kill human being. And a particular yam festival that each time they do it, in fact, they have to lock people up for 3 days. They won't be able to come out, both men and women, they will not be able to come out and do anything. 3 days. If it's approaching now, you see them buying things that they will use for that 3 days, and they will be indoor for 3 days. So modernization will start coming. We now find it, no, we need to, we need to reduce this. Since it's our culture and we want the upcoming generation to meet it, so they now reduce it to 1 day. And that 1 day is like half day. It's no longer as used to be day and night for 3 days. So like you rightly pointed out at the beginning, that if they are changing anything that seems not all right with the community, as to we agree that change. I want to pinpoint is Christians believe that the name of ancestors, some of them, like the rest of them, that the name is aligned with the devil. And we must try and change it. When I was
speak up, we are losing your voice.
You said?
I said, speak up, please. We are losing your voice. Yes. Okay.
Christians, some Christians or we Christians believe that some names do glorify the enemy, that is named after one idol or the other, which seems to point out where you are coming from, Ogungbemi, Oshagbemi, and the rest of them all. And so Christians now believe that you need to change this name, like Faleke. I have a friend that have to change it to Jesuleke. And that Faleke of a particular family tree that you pointed out. So him alone now single himself out and he bear Jesuleke, separating from the family tree. So he believed that that name is up to Ifa, so you cannot go along with Ifa. You understand me, sir?
Yes, sir.
So that's another area where the religion and culture clashes as well. Then I want to kind of advise as well, or contribution to what you have been saying. The area of respect and discipline is part of our culture. Yes. When I was growing up, my father taught me how to respect people, and how one of the ways you can respect them is that you greet, then you help alongside to be considerate. All those things are part of me. But when I was growing up, I see that I left my community. If I greet people, they just seems, why are you greeting me? Do I know you? They just pass like that. And with time now, these things are no longer in vogue again. My wife taught in school, and the parents will come and say, why did you punish my child? Why did you beat my child? Parents from home say, why did you beat my child? There are ways you can do this and the rest of them all. And by so doing, the school authority have to remove punishment, whether they are coming by 8, they are coming by 9, they just allow them to go into the class like that. So we are losing part of our culture because the present day parents are not in love, or they are from the culture.
Yes. Thank you very much, Pastor Femi, for that beautiful contribution regarding religion, and then the aspect of discipline and respect. I think with modernization, some of this issue of discipline and respect is they are going to extinction. Sometimes when I ask my children to prostrate, prostrate and greet the person to be prostrated for, you ask, oh, stand up, stand up. No. I will look at it that, I didn't grow up this way. Where I went to serve in Damaturu beside Maiduguri, those days, it looked odd in that environment. Each time I greet my principal and elders, I'll prostrate. I did discover that it was even becoming embarrassing to me the way I went later. I had to just adjust to their own style of greeting, that prostrating is for Yoruba area. They don't understand this you of prostrating and greeting. So even when I got married, my wife would say, you can greet, because as I move, as I see people, I know you, I don't know you. My part of the courtesy I've grown up with to greet and respect people. So these are tied, these are non-material aspect of culture, which we must consciously build into our children. But sir, the other aspect of you talk about religion, till eternity, we will continue to have a conflict between culture and religion. Even though religion is subsumed as part of culture now, because as you will see, the environment where those from Christian home or Muslim background or whatever, you will see some of the things they are going to do will be influenced by even their religion. Maybe dressing, greeting, way of life. So religion is so important. What we'll just say is that as much as possible, where we are going to have in mathematics, we talk about union, intersection, where we are going to have intersection where there's no conflict. Of course, if it has to do with just changing of name, if you are Ogunleke and you want to say to Jesuleke, what has it taken from you? Other than one, if you have any belief that there is going to be some spiritual connotation or spiritual attachment to it, apart from that belief, the name, unlike those in America, the white people, they bear stone, they bear rice, they bear name by way, is literally or primarily for identification. Then if you are bearing somebody that is bearing blessing, and in his lifetime, he cannot attract any blessing. His name is favor. In his lifetime, all is bearing, all is seeing, though there is power in name, as the Christian will believe, and I believe so much too in name. However, if what we grew up, if an existing name, if you like, you want to change name, you don't like, you want to change name. But my emphasis of this or in this seminar or this presentation is that as much as possible, we should look at our culture, where that the cultural heritage, the one that doesn't have any disadvantage, that is for common good, as much as possible, we must preserve them. The one for common good. If an individual likes in an environment and say that my name Eshubiyi, and he decides to say, I won't bear Eshubiyi, our name will be Jesubiyi. Oh, all well and good. But those things that are unique to all of us, that brings all of us together, we must carefully identify them without infringing or stepping on the freedom of another person. But those ones that harmonize us, we must, as much as possible, look at them and see how best we can preserve them together and then move forward. Of course, that they will say Christianity, even the Muslim religion, they is not they are all imported to Nigeria. The Christian religion, Muslim religion, they didn't originate from us. They came as missionaries too, to come around to our land. Of course, religion has been a blessing. Religion too is part of development, because what religion has done to us in Nigeria, trace all the schools, the Western education and whatever, it is through the missionary activities. So religion is subsumed into culture, but we must be careful so that that dichotomy, that aspect will not further divide us. I have no doubt that Mokutu, concerned citizens, you are not all Christians, you are not all Muslims. So you have different, of course, these are the predominant religion. Some may be traditional. So that we don't create enmity among ourselves in our goal. But the ones that unify us as much as possible, let's identify our cultural heritage. Let's go to the drawing board, identify them and work on them so that our society can be better. It is my desire, honest desire, that as you celebrate this annual program and bringing me up to talk about cultural preservation, I want to just challenge you. Please go on drawing board, have a colloquium, or a special sitting to identify what are the things that are peculiar to us in Yagba, and how can we preserve them? What can we do? If organizing special seminar for students in secondary school, primary school, so that consciously the culture of the community, of the environment is put in them, and then they grow by them, and then it can outlive us. I want to thank you very much, Pastor Femi, for that contribution. Chairman, over to you.
Hey, wonderful, wonderful presentation. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome,
I
sir.
want to appreciate every one of us here. God will hold us, and I believe we will benefit.
Amen.
Seriously, for this presentation. Personally, I am blessed. And if there is no
My hand is up. You can see my hand up.
Okay. Okay. There's one, Mr. David Kulong, as his hand is raised. Please, let's allow him to make his contribution. Please, you have the floor, sir. Unmute yourself and speak, sir.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for the wonderful presentation. I joined late, so I don't know if you addressed the point I'm about to, the question I'm about to ask. But the way I joined the presentation, when you are talking about cultural heritage, I really appreciate it so much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, my concern is this. It's subject on how the education system has helped to preserve our language. And these I'm referring to the issue of one Nigerian language, making the education system. While I was in secondary school, it was compulsory that you must offer one Nigerian language as a student. But over time, this is no longer the practice. Language is no longer compulsory. I know that, okay, in the society, parents, we are missing it in a way that, okay, maybe your child is not able to speak your language from the house, but the school can be a way of covering up for this gap when the child is not offering the language in school. Maybe by the time the child is offering the language in school, the parents will now begin to see one or two things and want to encourage the child. That may be the place where the child will pick up the language and put interest in the culture, in his own culture.
Yes.
He will hear some stories about Yoruba or about his ancestors, while it's offering that language. But the regulatory body now said this is no longer compulsory, meaning a child can go through school, primary school, secondary school, without offering any Nigerian language. And if the environment where it's living, Nigeria, the language is not well spoken, in its house, the language is not spoken, then we are already, the body language of our education system is already killing our culture. What can we do? That is my question.
Thank you very much, Mr. David, if I'm right by that identity. You have raised a very germane point. We have missed quite a number of things in our educational system in Nigeria, which I pray we're able to get it right. Those of Nigerians that move outside the country to study, part of the regulations, you go there, you learn part of the foreign, you learn the history of that country, you learn the environment, you learn the language, especially the special language, whether Chinese, Portuguese, French, and what have you. If in our own land, we play down our languages, that is too bad. And that reminds me of even when the subject was still introduced. I remember one of my uncle's children, one day he came back from school and showed me a diagram he drew. And I said, what picture did you do? He said, that was my Yoruba teacher. I drew our Yoruba teacher. When she was teaching us, I don't have interest in what she was saying. Of course, the father has stayed so long abroad, and then they came around, everything, they speak English, and so he didn't develop any interest in Yoruba. So when they take Yoruba, he was busy drawing the Yoruba teacher as he was teaching on the board. That's just on a lighter mood. It is very important that we have eclectic blend of our languages. If, for instance, there is something they do in seminary, those in the Anglican Communion, I'm aware of that. Then when they go, the priests are in school. During the set of their study, they go for language immersion. They take them, they post them to outside their culture, outside their terrain, to go and learn and work there, then understand the language. Language immersion is so important in our education. I think our for education policy, they must go back to the drawing board to bring back our languages, encourage students to I remember partly they introduced us to Igbo, the Igbo language, then French, we took French language, then relatively for those of us, we didn't have Hausa. Okay, we just did Hausa partly when I was in school. So if we must get it right, we must go back to the drawing board and ensure that all these are languages, they make it compulsory, not just you like in the university now, at university level in general studies, they introduce, you must pick, take either, as you take use of English, you take French or Arabic for them to, just for use of language immersion or understanding language. It is important that right from the primary school, they are, because little children, they can grab and pick as many languages as possible at that early stage. It is better they allow them, they expose them, the English language, Yoruba language, Hausa, the three major languages in Nigeria, we expose our children to them at the level. So where we don't expect them to be fluent in all languages, but the knowledge they have, we help them. By the time I went to serve in the north, even though I was not fluent in Hausa, but some few things I picked till today, they are still helping me. When I talk and I say, oh, at least that little idea of what I picked along while I was growing up, or little knowledge of Hausa, then by the time I got there. So it is important that we don't allow our language to die in our times, in our hands. And then if care is not taken, we'll just exchange everything for the English language, which is the global language, and at the detriment of our home. May I suggest that from this presentation we have made, we can write a position paper to our government. Let us start from Kogi State. Let us ensure, this language, our cultural preservation, to concern citizens. We can send the paper to our government and say, let us ensure. our languages don't go into extinction. Let's find a way of, then we can introduce those of us that are already up there. We can organize competition that addresses our culture. And then those who do well, oh, we give them a special awards, special rewards. And then through that, we'll be encouraging our native language. So what you have said, sir, is very important. We need to address that. And I think everyone that has opportunity to the government, we must keep drumming it to the government. They must not allow our traditional language to die or to give way in, for the English language. Thank you very much, sir.
Sorry, sir. Daddy Odudoyi, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm not monopolizing the.
No, sir.
The contribution.
I could see your hand raised. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you. Just bear with me. Just to comment on the issue of language. I think it's very important for us to really take a critical look at the issue of language. We should encourage our children to learn at least 2 more international languages. Yes. It is going to help them a lot. If you go, I'm sure Kulong is aware of what I'm talking about. If you are going to work in any multinational company and you have and you're multilingual, it gives you a very big advantage. You have more choices, more opportunities. Now, most of the things that are being sold to us here in Nigeria, when you see the user's manual, it comes in either French or what we call it, Chinese Mandarin, or it comes in Arabic. It's only very few of them have been translated to English. So if you just take it and just assume that all is well, you don't even know what is there. Some of the contracts we sign in Nigeria today, I'm told from the National Assembly sittings, some of the contracts have the China words in Chinese Mandarin. And you don't know what that means. A lot of things could be hidden in there. So it is very important for our children and the coming generation to learn either any of the 2 additional languages apart from English. Let's just take English as basic. Portuguese, Chinese, French, Arabic, at least one must be very fluent in. Thank you very much. That's my contribution.
Thank you, sir, for that, sir. I told you a line and I really support what you have said. May God help us. I remember the story of the Vice Chancellor. We always say it. My Vice Chancellor is a multilingual person and he stayed so long in a Francophone country where he studied, of course, he's a specialist in French. He kept on saying that in ECOWAS, most of the jobs available, they are to those who can speak French. And that the greatest percentage of the resources they use in paying salary of the staff, the ECOWAS, they are supplied by Nigeria. But Nigeria supplies less of the staff because many of the staff don't have the requisite skill of language to occupy the seat. He even gave an example of a man who came for an interview. The man did very well in the interview. By the time they just asked him, can you speak French? The man looked blank. Not even, and somebody was even trying, not even a single one. The one, and after the man left the place, as he was going, somebody ran after him. And I was asking him, you did well in the interview. In fact, you are the best in that interview. But what dropped you was that your inability to, even if it's just a common survival, you just said it jokingly, that would have earned you that job. So it is important that international languages, they are very, very important. When I was in secondary school, I was the only one that took French. My notebook was the chalkboard for my teacher. SS1, SS2. I prepared to work SS3. Unfortunately, they didn't bring my paper because I was the only one that registered for that. There was no push from the school. But by the time I got to higher institution, together with my twin brother, I went to register with French department to take courses. I went to, and there was a man, one of the French lecturer that takes tutorial, staff that take tutorial for them, very skilled. So he was taking us for two years. We were just, and that little knowledge I get in French today, till today, is still of assistance to me. So understanding international language is a plus to our graduates, a plus to our students, to our children. We should encourage them, as they understand local language, let them pick international language, since we are preparing them to be global in appearance and performance. May God help us. Thank you very much. We have had a wonderful time. Do we still have a contribution? Any hand raised? No hand raised. Chairman?
Yes, sir. I will call on Engineer Ludo to please help us do the vote of thanks so that we can now call it a day. I'm very grateful, sir.
Prof, we cannot thank you well enough.
Thank you, sir.
You have really enlightened us, and you've really opened our eyes into what we presumed we know, but in reality, we do not know. Thank you very much for the insight you have given us. And to the other contributors and the organizers, we say thank you very much. And to everybody who has been here and stayed patiently to wait. I was checking continuously the attendance on the screen, and I'm not sure anybody exits. That shows that we really enjoy your stay.
Thank you, sir.
And we pray that we'll have an opportunity to have you back, maybe from another village, not necessarily from Makutu.
Yes,
but
sir.
please, when we call you, attend to us.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Amen. Thank you very much, engineer, for thanking me.
Yes.
And
Yes, sure.
the chairman and organizer, I want to thank you very much for inviting me too. It's been a wonderful time too with to concerned citizens. Thank you very much. Those who are joining online, I'm monitoring those who are joining through WhatsApp. Quite a good number are following as we are recording and sending to the WhatsApp platform. Thank you very much. We appreciate you all.
Thank you, sir. We are very grateful, sir.
Thank you very much.